Most people think that it takes a long time to learn how to sling, or that it might be dangerous to try it. They think they might hit themselves in the head. Well, the truth is, if you can throw, you can sling. And I'm going to show you a slinging technique today that most people can learn in under an hour. And it happens to be one of the more powerful and accurate slinging techniques out there. Let's get started. Hey everyone, Ryan here with Pan Slings. So before we jump into this, we just need to get a common misconception out of the way. And that is that a lot of people feel like that slinging is about spinning, and that you spin it faster and faster and then let go. Not only is that potentially a dangerous idea, that's not how slings work. In fact, the best slinging techniques, the ones that deliver the most power and the best accuracy, actually just follow good throwing mechanics, like a sidearm throw or an overhand throw. So the trick to learning how to sling is just to learn how to adopt the sling into one of those throwing mechanics. And the slinging technique I'm going to teach you today, I like to call it a true overhand. Some people call it a figure eight. I don't like that terminology because it puts the emphasis on the pathway of the sling rather than on the throwing mechanic itself. And really what we are trying to do is adopt the sling into the overhand throw. Now to do that, I'm going to break this down into 3 steps. And we're going to start with a stick just to help us learn the motion with something rigid. And then we'll jump over to the sling once we have that motion down. And then finally we'll talk about the release. So find a stick, something fairly straight, a couple feet in length, and just stand in a natural throwing stance. Position the stick between your index finger and your middle finger, and then balance the opposite end out there with your non-throwing hand. Now, we're going to do this just like we do an overhand throw, but we're just allowing the stick to come with us. So we draw down, and the stick goes down into the side, and as we draw back to throw, as the elbow and the wrist break over, the momentum and the rotation of the wrist is going to carry the stick behind my back. So the bottom of the rotation, then we're loaded and ready to come forward across the body. We'll speed that up a little bit. So go down, we rotate, we come forward. Down, rotate, and forward. Just practice that a few times, and it really will just kind of click. It's a motion that you're familiar with, and just bringing the stick into it will make sense fairly quickly. Once you understand the motion, then it's time to switch over to your sling. Now, I'm not going to talk a lot about the sling grip in this video. I've done another video on that. But essentially all slings are the same in that there's a release cord that's released at the release point, and the other cord remains with your hand throughout the throw. Now we're not going to do any releases, we're still just working on the motion. Now what I find people doing is they're still, when they try to accommodate the sling, they'll do funny things like swing it out to the side, like this. They'll try to throw it over their head and then come forward, or they'll have stall points where they get kind of jerky and then they try to flick the sling. If you find yourself doing those things, switch back to the stick until it makes sense and it's a fluid motion. So we're just going to work on the motion with the sling. Again, down and back, up, rotate, and forward. Let that wrist swing it behind your back, and then come forward. It's the bottom of the rotation behind the back when you're loaded and ready to come forward. So one more time. Again, there's nothing in the pouch, no releases. We're just working on the motion and we're taking our time. Don't try to speed this up, just get nice and fluid. But once you have that, now it's time to move on to learning the release point. Now, people often ask, how do you know when it's time to release? The neat thing about slinging with good throwing mechanics is it works a lot like throwing a ball or a stone. You know when the release needs to happen. You're throwing at your target. It's the same thing with the sling, more or less. You are releasing at your target. Your body just kind of knows when it needs to happen. So try a few releases, nothing in the pouch. We're going to release, we're going to aim at a target, we're going to release the release cord, and we're going to let the sling swing around our body. Try that a couple times. Now, it's a little bit hard to fill the release point with an empty pouch. Some people suggest starting with a marshmallow. We find that marshmallows are just a little bit light to fill the release point. We make a little training ball. It's a foam ball that we add some weight to. So it puts just enough weight into the pouch so that we can feel a good release point while we're training and just learning some directional control. Whatever you start with, don't use a rock, use something soft, something safe. And once you feel like you've gotten some directional control down, then you're ready to go up to something heavier. Slinging is a lot of fun. It's a lot more natural than people realize. It just becomes an extension of your arm. And once you learn it, the sling will just become a lifetime companion. It's like gaining a throwing superpower. So be safe, have fun. We'll see you later.